Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to talk about a new rumor about the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. We also have another rumor about the mysterious C button on the Nintendo Switch 2 and what exactly that does. And as far as the pre-orders go for the Nintendo Switch 2, there are more rumors on that, not just one. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys leave a like. It helps the video reach more viewers when you do. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is RoboRob93. So Nintendo just had their Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 1. This is the Nintendo Direct that's going to end up filling a lot of the spots up until the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sure we'll have more Nintendo Directs after that, but it's good to see that there are still some pretty big games coming to the Nintendo Switch 1. And while we're all excited for these games coming to the platform, I think a lot of us are focused on the next Nintendo console. And one thing that I wonder when it comes to that is the availability of the console. How much stock is Nintendo going to have? Are there going to be any issues like when the PS5 was released and the Xbox Series X? Is that going to be a huge issue for a lot of us? Well, it seems Go Nintendo has a pretty interesting rumor. Their title of the article says, Rumor, US retailer opening Switch 2 pre-orders April 9th, expecting day one sellout. And they have just under it bots versus real people at the checkout. And that's one thing that a lot of us are kind of concerned about, is the bots buying up the Nintendo Switch 2s. Now, Nintendo has said in the past that they're going to have enough stock at launch. We'll see what happens with that. Maybe something changed and maybe they won't have enough stock. The April Nintendo Direct is in a couple of days, so we'll see when that happens and when the release date for it and the reveal date for the pre-orders happen. I'm sure we'll get that information during that time. But for now, let's continue with the article. The April 2nd Nintendo Direct is going to give us more insight into the Switch 2 than we've ever had before. There's no doubt we'll learn about games for the platform, hardware features, and more. Many are hoping we'll learn release dates and price points, and a new rumor that's popped up today sure makes it sound like that'll be the case. Insider Gaming supposedly has seen documents from a large US retailer concerning the Switch 2 launch. Just as we heard a few days back, this retailer is expecting the Switch 2 to launch sometime in June. Along with that, this document supposedly points towards pre-orders for a platform going live April 9th, 2025, 1 week after the Nintendo Switch Direct. Now I do have to say, if it is on April 9th, that's going to be pretty interesting. Because then you gotta wonder, okay, April 9th the pre-orders go live, more than likely a couple months down the line, that's going to be when the Nintendo Switch 2 release date is going to be, and that's going to be June. But also remember, Nintendo usually does a June Nintendo Direct as well. So is Nintendo's plan to release the Nintendo Switch 2 among that June Nintendo Direct? That would be actually pretty smart when you think about it. Imagine you just bought your Nintendo Switch 2 and you don't really have to wait too long to see the promises of why you bought that Nintendo Switch 2, essentially. The games that take advantage of the Nintendo Switch's capabilities, or at least the Nintendo Switch 2. If it spins a positive narrative around the Nintendo Switch 2, more than likely what would happen is that more Nintendo Switch 2s will be bought up by people who are kind of on the fence and don't really see a reason to get it, right? Or maybe people are just going to wait a bit. So I definitely can see how releasing the Nintendo Switch 2 in June, pre-orders go live in April, and showing it off 1 week before that can work out for Nintendo if that's in their plan. But anyways, let's continue with the article. This US retailer will supposedly have a countdown page with a timer showing people the pre-orders open on April 9th. And they'll also be giving out special collectible coins for those who snag pre-orders. Now I think that would actually be pretty cool if you get a little extra pre-order bonus if you pre-ordered the Nintendo Switch 2, especially if it's not just some kind of plastic coin, if it's actually a pretty hefty coin. But the main thing here to take away, I think, or at least one of the main things, is that this is just one retailer. So when they do say, oh, stock is going to be low, they're going to be going through stock, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be able to find it at other retailers. This is just one retailer, and keep in mind, this is just in the US. There are people all across the world. The US isn't the only place, so keep that in mind and in the back of your head. Moving on to the next Nintendo Switch 2 rumor. So if you guys haven't seen this photo that's on your screen right now, the C button that Nintendo previously covered in the original Nintendo Switch 2 trailer, it was covered in that trailer, but now in this advertisement for the Nintendo Switch 2, it seems to not be covered, and it has a C button on it. So now a lot of people are wondering, what does this mean? Does it mean that it's connecting to something else? Does it mean that it's for some kind of social system? Is it just for screenshots, or is it a share button? Things like that. South40k over on Twitter has this to say: Nintendo isn't hiding the Switch's C button anymore. It's clearly visible in the promotional images for Nintendo today on the Apple and Google App Stores. We just don't know what it does yet. So this is an official advertisement for the Nintendo Switch 2. So it's not like a leak, it's not something that's mocked up, it's not like a 3D render. This is an official thing from Nintendo. Now, the interesting thing about the C button specifically on the Nintendo Switch 2 is that a new rumor has popped up. Switch to Stock over on Twitter had this to say: New Switch 2 rumor. Switch 2 C button is to connect to original Switch to use as a second screen or as a controller, and the source is exists. Now, this source is the one who previously leaked, or at least one of the people who leaked the Nintendo Direct that has recently happened. And that is my first time coming in contact with a rumor from this source. So far as I can tell, he's pretty solid, at least on face value. But again, just like the other rumor, keep in mind that this is a rumor and it could always be fake. Now, there is something pretty interesting when it does come to this specific rumor, because you remember there was a pretty interesting patent going around that could end up being used on the Nintendo Switch 2 if this rumor ends up being true. Curie Pink Fury over on Twitter had this to say: and people call me silly for thinking that this Nintendo patent was going to be significant for the Nintendo Switch 2 back in January of this year. We are going to have DS, 3DS, and maybe Wii U games for this thing. Welcome back, dual screen gameplay. Now, that would be pretty interesting if some of these games do use a dual screen, even if it's not just for like new Nintendo Switch games. Like in the post, he says DS, 3DS, maybe Wii U. If Nintendo ends up doing that, that would be really fantastic. There are a lot of games that could use the Nintendo Switch AI upscaling and also play with the dual screen as well. I mean, it would essentially be a bigger 3DS at that point, right? We know that the rumored DLSS was basically confirmed, not by Nintendo themselves, but via a patent that's already out there. So obviously Nintendo's going to end up using some kind of upscaling technology. So I would assume they could do that for DS, 3DS, and Wii U games. I mean, even when you go on like emulators on PC, they have upscalers for your games. I think the interesting part that's gonna be, if this ends up happening, is Nintendo gonna add DS, 3DS games to the Nintendo Switch online service? That part will be pretty interesting, because at that point, of course, you're gonna have to be able to play those on a 3DS format, so you're gonna have to buy this piece for the Nintendo Switch 2. But if they do that, there are a lot of games that I would just love to play on the Nintendo 3DS, not Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo Switch 2. All the Pokemon games, basically. The Legend of Zelda Spirit Trackers. There's, of course, Kid Icarus Uprising. That would be really fantastic. I would much prefer maybe a remake or a remaster that kind of fixes some of the control issues, but that's just me. If we're not going to get that, at least let me play it on this. I mean, even when it comes to the DS, there's a game that I really love playing and going back to, Spectrobes. It's pronounced one of the two ways, but it's basically a RPG where you dig up fossils and those fossils get turned into actual dinosaurs and you fight with them. Now, this is from my memory. I haven't played it in years, so I may be remembering it wrong. I just remember tapping the dirt and getting all of the fossils out of the ground and then them turning into monsters and fighting with them. From my memory, anyway. But yeah, that would be pretty cool in my opinion. Like, what games would you guys like to see, or what games would you want to play on the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes to DS and 3DS games? With retro gaming being so expensive as it is, this is another route that I think would be pretty good. It's better than nothing, right? With that being said, guys, if you guys ended up enjoying this video, make sure you subscribe for more Nintendo Switch rumors and, of course, all of the news that's going to happen in the next like 4 to 5 years. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.